Here is a list of the most important things to know when you start soldering. First, make sure that the pipe and fitting are clean. An abrasive pad might just be the best thing to use. Emery cloth and sandpaper have slippery backing, making it difficult to get some grip, whereas the abrasive pad has grip for you and excellent abrasion. Now, when it comes to cleaning inside the fitting, you can use a wire brush like this, clip away the handle, attach it to your drill, and just check out how quick and effective that is, saving you time and energy. Here's an example of what a clean fitting and fixture look like. When it comes to selecting a brush for your flux, get a high quality brush, and if you can't, look what can happen. Fibers come loose, and if that happens while working and applying the flux, serious issues can occur. That one fiber becomes a vein or artery for water to flow out of that can create a serious leak or worse. So, some tips on what to do. You can use a little super glue or adhesive around the base of the brush to make sure those bristles are much less likely to fall out. The other idea, don't clean up any work with the brush. Because the pipe is still hot, it tends to get frayed and those hairs come loose. Next up, be aware of the oils on your hands. If you're about to work on an area, never touch it with your bare hands. The oils on your fingers are enough to cause some serious issues. Check this out, left and right. One side, flux applied on an area not touched by the hand. On the other, grease from someone's fingers have touched the pipe, and just check that out. The solder doesn't stick. So never reach out and touch an area that you're going to work on with your bare hands. In fact, try to avoid touching the pipe with your bare hands ever. Now, always make sure there's no residual water in the pipe. It keeps the pipe from getting hot enough to be effectively soldered and joined. And that can become a serious issue, taking you a lot longer to do the work, and in the end, possibly having to replace a part that you've overheated. Now, where to heat the pipe when soldering? Heat where you want the solder to go. So in that case, if you want it to travel from the front to the back or towards the center of this elbow, heat it from the elbow. The solder will then travel towards the direction the heat is coming from. The same applies from the top end. Here's a big no-no. Never actually heat the solder itself. It'll just melt it, waste it, you'll watch it drip away, and in the end you'll probably overheat the pipe as well. A big waste of resources, especially time. When it comes to using your torch, there is a sweet spot to the flame. So, when you're working on a join, try to find that spot. It's the tip of the inner cone. That's where it's hottest. It'll save you time and make for the most effective work. The tip here being used to heat, again, that inside edge of the join, and the solder flows towards that heat. Another thing to note is that when you use other parts of the flame, specifically the cool end, you can see the side-by-side comparison here, more oxidizing takes place with the cooler end of the flame, and over time, that can cause less effective capillary action. Another thing you want to avoid. When you're done your work, always wipe away that excess flux. It's acidic, and over time, it can eat away at the pipe, corrode it, and might even cause a leak. You don't need any special cleaners. You don't need any special cloths. Simply a clean rag. Clean it thoroughly, and you should be good to go. And that is a good time to mention that you should always inspect all your work and joins when you're complete. Allow them to cool, and then check them out. A handy tip, not a bad idea, to have a little mirror handy to be able to see around to the other side of your work. If you see that a spot has been missed, well, actually, unfortunately, the best thing to do is to start all over again. Disassemble it. Don't just try to patch the joint. That will likely lead to a leak in the end. Now, 95% of repairs require the line to be closed before starting the project, because you want to have access to water in case of emergency. Get a bucket full of water. Also, not a bad idea to have a fire extinguisher handy. And don't forget to use these fireproof blankets around the area where you're working. The last thing you want is for some handiwork to turn into a disaster. The last tip, when dealing with flux, remember it's an acid. It contains zinc and ammonium chloride. It's extremely painful to get in your eyes. And that's a particular hazard when you're soldering overhead. So please remember to wear your protective equipment, in this case, wearing safety goggles. It'll save you more than just time and a little pain. It might save your eyes.